And yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to sort of join us on this webinar where we're going to be looking at some money saving tips that you can implement quite quickly, quite easily, but to help you manage the cost of living increases that we've all sort of been experiencing and hearing so much about at the back end of last year, but sadly showing no signs of let up as we make our way through now 2023 as well. Now, for those of you that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting before, my name's Katie Rye. I'm one of the directors of Better With Money. We're always delighted to be able to support both the ICE Benevolent Fund and the support network with a programme of webinars that they run to be able to support your financial well-being, but also in addition to all of the other fantastic work that they do in supporting you and your families in times of need and financial hardship. Now, from a little bit of housekeeping perspective, just to note that the webinar today is providing information only, so there's no financial advice being given. We're just aiming to give you the tools and knowledge to help you to make your own decisions about your finances, but also to understand in more detail some of those key areas that you may be able to make some real quick win cost savings on. It's also important to note Better With Money is an independent provider of sort of workplace financial education. We've got no products to sell. We're not connected to any of the companies or websites that we will run through in today's webinar. So if I do mention websites, companies along the way, it's just because we genuinely believe they offer good services, which you can then take advantage of if you wish. So let's get started then. So what we're going to have a look at is we're going to cover off some of the top kind of money saving areas. Now, we're all aware, like I said at the start, that the increased cost of living that we're having to deal with, it is growing in momentum as well. We're hearing more and more in the news around perhaps what we are going to be facing throughout this year as well. And it's really important for us to work through our household budgets and pay particular attention to the areas where we can make some savings, and especially to then be able to redirect that surplus income to help cover increasing costs elsewhere, and also with the view to be able to build that savings buffer that ultimately protects us financially as well and helps us to build upon our financial resilience. So with that in mind, today's session, we're going to look at how we can save money on water, food. We'll touch on streaming services. We'll spend some time looking at travel, other key areas as well, but also we'll make sure that you're maximising income where possible. And then we've got time, as always, for questions at the end. Now, just to say that prior to this webinar being delivered, there was a webinar that was run that specifically focused on energy and some of the sort of quick win saving areas that are available. So if anybody had a particular interest, you're very welcome to revisit that webinar as well. It is now stored on the webinar archive of the ICE Benevolent Fund, and for the support network, it sits on their relevant channel as well. So I would really encourage you, just when you have time, to go back and revisit that, because there's, it's packed full of brilliant sort of savvy saving that can be done, certainly on energy costs at the moment, whilst we know that is a particularly challenged area. But to kick us off, I wanted to sort of start by having a look at the area that's often kind of the forgotten utility, and that's water usage. So unfortunately, water is the utility that you cannot switch providers for. So that option of kind of shopping the market and looking at different providers is instantly ruled out. But it is possible for us to look at our household water consumption and see where we can reduce it as much as possible. So one of the things you can consider is switching to a water meter to save money. There's a brilliant calculator that you can use. It's at the bottom of the slide to have a look to see if you might be able to save some money. And if you do decide to switch, you would need to contact your water company. Now, if you choose to switch to a water meter, you usually are given a trial period of up to 24 months during which time you can actually switch back to your old fixed charges, if that's what's preferable. The option is not available in sort of all areas of England, especially where compulsory metering is being introduced. So again, it's about understanding what options you do have given where you live geographically. Now, some sort of water saving tips that you could have a look at if you do have a water meter could include sort of using wastewater for plants, turning off the tap when you're cleaning your teeth, simply because a running tap can use up to 9 litres of water a minute. If possible, taking a shower instead of a bath. So 5-minute shower uses 40 litres of water, and that's about half the volume of just a standard bath. Using things like a water saving device in your toilet cistern, that can really help. So depending on the size of your cistern, you could save between 1 and 3 litres just every time you flush the toilet. Also thinking about water butts in order to sort of collect rainwater off of your roofs. Now, water butts usually store around 200 litres of water, as well as being sort of much better for watering your plants. Using rainwater in the garden sort of helps reduce, the amount of treated water you're using. But also, and the key is that most water companies will actually apply a discount to your bill as well if you have a water butt in the front and back of your property. So if you have already got them, please do, give your water company a ring and ask them for the discount, because it's pretty standard practice. Now, household water, usage varies enormously depending on the number of people in the house, but also personal needs as well. So on average, the average kind of person is using around 152 litres per day. 113 litres per property are actually lost through leakage every day. I actually only yesterday saw a great tip. It was on TikTok, I'm ashamed to say, but somebody went to their toilet cistern and they actually put some food colouring into the cistern. And then what they did was they watched to see whether that colour was then dripping through into the kind of bottom of the toilet. So that it was basically telling them that they've got that natural kind of leakage that's happening. So it's just a really clever, quick win way of seeing kind of whether, your cistern is actually leaking as well. Now, we've also got things like showers, which can be, a key area. So a power shower, 13 litres are used per minute. Mixer shower, 8 litres. Electric shower, only 5 litres are being used per minute. If we look at the bath, then a bath uses on average 80 litres. And then again, going back to the toilet, we've got 5 litres per flush using a modern cistern, 9 litres per flush for older toilets as well. And when we come on to things like washing machine, you've got 50 litres per cycle, dishwasher, 14 litres per cycle for a modern dishwasher, but actually 10 litres if you were to put it on eco setting. Washing your hands, 6 litres per minute with a running tap, or 8 litres per bowl wash. And then car wash right at the bottom there, 250 litres per hosepipe use, or 30 litres per bucket wash. And I know it's becoming increasingly popular, certainly with car washes, for people to actually take them elsewhere rather than be washing them at home. So very much like energy usage, being aware of your own kind of household daily behaviour and making those really small changes to routines and timings can actually have a massive impact financially in helping us to kind of reduce that water bill, but importantly is then going to free up more disposable income that you can then put towards something more meaningful, or to help build that savings buffer to protect against other further rises in the future as well. Now, another key area for saving money is food shopping. So according to the Office of National Statistics, we spend nearly a fifth of our income alone just on food and non-alcoholic drinks. So the key tip is to get in control of what and when we buy our food. So if you can get in the habit of using a weekly meal plan, then it avoids those excess ingredients being brought, reduces wastage, but also it stops the temptation of the aisles and the promotions. Now, according to the Money Advice Service, you can save up to 20% off of your food shop just by sticking to your plan. So we do have meal planners available that sit on our Better with Money website, which you're very welcome to use, but also things like staying out of the supermarket as much as possible in order to sort of reduce that temptation of the aisles can really help you to stay in control of your budget. I also speak very much from a personal perspective there as well, because I know every time I've been a little bit disorganized and I have needed to go into the supermarket, I just end up coming out with so much more than what I'd planned to get, but also I've spent significantly more as well than what I was expecting. So click and collect works really well for me to be able to keep to that food budget. Other people, will have different kind of techniques that they're doing, but click and collect, there's a lot of kind of psychology, lots of research and stats around the benefits that can have by quite simply keeping you out of that temptation and those aisles. Certainly in my household as well, dropping the brand of many items to the supermarket's own brand has made a difference financially. The most interesting part, and my children are very young, but they don't even notice the difference. Arguably, I don't think my husband actually does either. But also building up things like loyalty points, vouchers throughout the year, that can also really help in subsidising those big food shops like Christmas or other large festive family occasions when they come around. Now, just on the Tesco Club Card point note, they have a much higher value if you actually exchange them against vouchers to spend elsewhere. So in some cases, things like days out vouchers, they actually end up being worth 3 times the value of that coupon. So it's worth considering, and whether a day out could be a nice gift for children as well if you're struggling for ideas. And certainly, like many people at the back end of last year who needed to keep kind of Christmas spend to a minimum, we're obviously got that coming back around again this year, maybe big birthdays as well. So sometimes thinking about perhaps using their value to greater effect by giving them a day out to a zoo or a certain theme park, can help kind of tick many of those boxes as well, whilst mitigating the level of spend. Now, if you haven't discovered them already, you can take a look at some of the food apps that are out there. So you've got Olio, Too Good To Go, where you can get free or vastly reduced food from supermarkets and food outlets where food is kind of nearing its best before date. So they're kind of packaging it up. They're either giving it away for free or at a heavily discounted rate as well. And in the UK, we actually spend on average nearly £300 a year just on takeaway pizza. So really quick win area could be that this is where you save some money. So we've listed a couple of websites that you might find useful that are packed full of ideas and recipes for you to whip up your own fakeaway or create meals at only £1 per portion. Also making sure that you kind of hunt around for the best deals that you can get sort of through various websites. So great resource is the Money Saving Expert website, where you can sign up for their notifications. You can use their email service so that you can kind of keep on top of the latest discounts and cost saving ideas as well. And also, if you have a look at this kind of web link, there's an abundance of offers in the supermarket, down to sort of, on half terms. There's lots of initiatives for feeding your children either for free or at a very low cost, as well as many other kind of restaurant savings, days out, travel discounts, etc. Now, another area where we tend to spend money without realizing is actually on streaming services, and particularly TV and films. And certainly, in my household, when I do this sort of analysis, if my husband had his way, we would be signed up to every streaming service possible. And I think at one point we in fact were. So there was Netflix, Sky Movies, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, you name it, they were all being taken out. But the reality is, we actually probably only, Netflix is probably the one that's used to any extent at all. So the rest kind of get cancelled. So then I become the least favourite person in the house. But that's by the by. But with a standard kind of subscription for Netflix at around £10.99 per month, you've got Apple Plus at £6.99 a month, Disney Plus £7.99 a month, and a basic kind of Sky package from around £26 up to £100 if you have all of their bolt-ons and services. it can end up being a big part of the household monthly expenditure. And that's particularly relevant if you then add on all the music options and so forth. So there's things that we can do to try and reduce it. So firstly, it is about making sure you're not paying for services you don't use. So, my household, like I said, classic example, if you have got Sky, but actually you're only using Netflix, then you can obviously consider cancel it. Now, sometimes just by threatening to leave Sky, you'll probably save yourself quite a bit of money. But I always err on the side of caution with these sorts of things, because if you are going to put that call in, you are going to threaten to leave, then you have to also be prepared to walk away. Because I have had situations with other people where we've gone through these sorts of scenarios and they've said, well, actually, I did phone Sky, I did threaten to leave, and they were very happy for me to do so. And they did process the disconnect kind of notice on the account. So, there's that level of threat that we can do, but we've also got to be prepared to actually walk away and make sure we have got our ducks in a row, that we have done some price comparison, so that we can also go back to them with quite a viable argument if need be as well. But like I said, do be prepared as well for them to actually let you walk, especially in the current climate. Now, if you sort of do want to have a look at streaming services, you can make the most of the free trials. So many of them do give sort of free trials. So Prime Video offers a 30-day free trial. You've got BritBox and Apple TV, both 7 days. You do have to put your credit card details in, but it's about making a little diary note on your phone so that it pings up reminding you to cancel them, so that then you don't get charged. To be honest, we've really started taking advantage of a lot of the free trials, especially, during times where we're all kind of in the home on holidays and so forth, because we know we'll kind of get maximum sort of usage out of them at that point. But remember, there's also a number of services where you may need to register, but viewing is free. So things like A114, BBC iPlayer, My5, UK TV Play. Now, the downside is you often have to suffer kind of lots of adverts, but you can get free access to box sets and films that you may need to pay for through the other services. If you're looking for deals on Disney Plus, you can get £2 off the monthly subscription by being an O2 customer. So if you are an existing O2 customer, you can add Disney Plus subscription to your contract, and O2 will then give you a £2 bill credit each month, meaning that you effectively get that Disney Plus subscription for only £5.99 rather than the £7.99. So you can sort of have a look through your O2 account and see what you can get access to. And certainly for anybody on other phone providers as well, it's always worth having a look and seeing what additional bolt-ons you can get access to and whether they work out cheaper. Again, using Disney Plus as an example, if you're a Tesco club card holder, then again, you can swap £8 of club card vouchers for a 3-month kind of Disney Plus subscription. They kind of give you a code, it's valid for so long. So if you've already got a subscription, you can basically wait until that expires and then use the code that you've got in place. And also, many sort of technology businesses as well. So Currys, for example, they have a free loyalty scheme that's called Currys Perks. And you can get up to 3 months of free kind of Apple TV Plus. Currys say that you'll get an email within a few days of signing up with their instructions on how to kind of redeem the offer. And in addition to that, their perks scheme also give you kind of exclusive discounts on tech brands and things throughout the year as well. So that might be something that's of interest to you and an area where you can save some money. Now, another area where we can all become a little bit more savvy is travel. And having come out the other side, sort of as the pandemic now, it's fair to say we're all traveling a lot more again. Last year, lots of people being able to take more holidays than perhaps for, the last few years, catching up with friends and family. So travel massively back on the agenda. It's another area where we can take some steps just to manage costs and save money where possible. So if you're traveling by train, it's about seeing if you can book in advance to get those reduced fares. rail operators generally launch tickets 10 to 12 weeks before the date of travel, but the cheap tickets do tend to go quickly. So you can always sign up and get a free alert with Trainline to see when those tickets go on sale. Even if you've left it a bit late, don't assume that you've missed out. Sometimes trains firms still sort of have cheap advance tickets available even up to the day before travelling. The thing to bear in mind is obviously advance tickets are non-refundable. So if you can't travel for any reason, you won't be able to get your money back, but you will be able to change the date and the time of the ticket. But some companies will then apply an admin fee as well of around £10 to do that. So it's worth kind of weighing up if the advance ticket saving is then worth the risk of no refund. Now, the other trick with train travel, which I'm sure you've all heard of by now, but it's train splitting. So instead of buying tickets for the whole journey, it's about buying tickets for its constituent parts that can then cut the cost considerably. And you don't even have to get off the train, as long as the train does stop at the station that you've split to and from. So as an example, if you were traveling, let's say from London to Durham, but the train stops at York in between, then you could potentially save money from buying a ticket from London to York and then another from York to Durham. So you could even be sat in the same seat for the entire journey, but you'll just have 2 tickets rather than 1. And this is perfectly fine according to the National Rail Conditions of Travel. Apps like TrainPal, which is the Better With Money team favourite, but it will look at the train splitting options automatically, but they won't always be the cheapest. So that's why I kind of mention a couple of other companies as well, who could help you if you don't want to sort of have to do the research yourself. And as many of us have continued to sort of work flexibly since the ease of the COVID restrictions, National Rail, nearly 2 years ago now, introduced the new flexible season tickets. They're tickets that are aimed at passengers travelling 2 to 3 days a week, but also allow travel on any 8 days in a 28-day period with no need to kind of select the days of travel in advance. Now, flexible tickets can be used for travel during peak and off-peak times. In most cases, you can use any operator between your start and end station. Tickets are paperless, so you will need a kind of smart card or a smartphone to be able to sort of store them on there. But passengers travelling 1 day a week will still be better off buying daily tickets, while passengers travelling more than 4 days a week would actually be better off with the conventional season ticket. So it's worth sort of looking into, but also being aware of the various rail cards that are available as well, dependent on your age. And there's 16 to kind of 25-year-old cards, there's 26 to 30-year-old cards, and then obviously there's the senior rail cards as well that can also give you discounts as well for other things, not just travel. But again, it's about sort of weighing up the costs involved of taking it out versus the discounts you're going to get and how viable it is that you're going to make that money back. Now, if you're traveling by car, the first tip is to make sure your car is more efficient. So your tyre pressures play a big part. So if they're actually too low, then it can increase the drag, which means you'll need more fuel to do the same journey as if your tyre pressures were correct for your load. So really worth keeping in mind. The £1 or 50p that you might spend at the pump to pump up your tyres at the petrol station really could, you know, be able to save you significantly more than that in fuel. And then talking at fuel, if you wanted to know where the cheapest forecourt in your area, then you can go on petrolprices.com. You go on the website, you plumb in your postcode, you can set the radius, how far you're prepared to travel, and it will come up with all of the kind of sort of petrol prices in your area. So it can be a really great way of making sure you're getting your diesel or petrol at the cheapest rates. And there's also some brilliant car share initiatives as well that you can sign up to if you're kind of sick of that expensive travel and you'd like to be part of a car sharing community in order to sort of get you to and from work as well. Now, I mentioned we'd cover off other savings, so there are other areas as well that you can explore to make sure that you're maximising as many cost savings as possible. And for the majority of people, it's then going to free up income to then help you elsewhere. So looking at things like shopping discounts, mobile phone, prepayments of prescriptions, if you're someone that has that cost on a monthly basis, bike club, pet subscription, just all examples of where, you might be able to save some money, and it might be quite cost effective for you to do that. And obviously making the most as well of lots of the discount sites. So Top Cashback, honey.com, which is basically a free internet browser that will show you any codes and discounts that you're eligible for as well automatically. Now, we've focused obviously a lot of the cost savings, but it's equally important to make sure you're maximising the amount of income you're receiving. So useful starting point is to always be clear on any government support that's available to you. So they've made that a lot easier by looking at the website that's at the top of the slide, which is the Help for Households. State benefits as well, if you wanted to see whether you're entitled to any state benefits that perhaps you're not already in receipt of, then you've got the Entitled To website. Charitable grants, there's lots of charitable grants out there, organisations that have set up those funds to help you if you're in financial difficulty. So you can have a look at the Turn to Us website as well. Obviously, don't forget that you have access to some fantastic benevolent funds that have sponsored today's session as well, who are absolutely, wanting to hear from you if there's something they can do financially to help your lives be easier. And then you've also got the Rent a Room scheme, which will allow you to earn up to £7,500 per year by letting out furnished accommodation in your home as well. So a few ideas there to just ensure as well that you are getting as much money coming in as what you're entitled to. And just before we finish up, please don't forget the fantastic services that are offered by the ICE Benevolent Fund and the Support Network on behalf of IMechE, who have sponsored the webinar today. They obviously can provide you with financial, workplace and wellbeing support to you and your families. So just as a reminder, put their website and helpline numbers here so that you can find out more as well if you need to. Now, conscious of time, and we promised that there would be, time to answer any questions that you may have. So I'm going to hand back to Sarah so that we can run through any of those that have been coming through.
Thank you very much, Katie. Lots of really useful information there. So for the first question, regarding train travel, is the free alert for when tickets go on sale from the National Rail website?
Yep, so that would be the train line that I mentioned earlier. So you can sign up and then you'll get an awareness of when discounted tickets are available.
That's great. Thank you very much. And I spend a lot on parking, but not driving isn't an option. Are there any tips for finding cheaper parking?
Yeah, there's some great kind of apps that are out there at the moment. So you've got things like Your Parking Space, you've got Just Park as well, where you can put in either the postcode or the area and it will just bring up all the different car parking facilities and what their costs are. Something like Your Parking Space is actually as well an initiative. It's been around now for a few years, but it's even where people will almost rent out their driveways and things like that, so that you can almost, park closer to work, but actually you just keep your car on their drive for however many days a week as well. So yeah, I definitely recommend sort of jumping on Google, having a look at either Your Parking Space or Just Park to see whether that, also can pull up the cheaper options that are available in that area.
That's great, thank you. And just one more. Obviously, there's been some news around the National Grid, which has been paying households to use less electricity between 5 and 6 p.m. the other day. How can people find out if this applies to them?
Yeah, so firstly, it's for people with a smart meter, but also it's something you need to sign up to as well. So the best way is to speak to your energy provider, and obviously they will run you through all of the requirements, i.e., you need to have that smart meter in place, and then you can go from there. So the best place to speak to is your energy provider to see how they need you to sign up for that service, and also what they can do if you don't have a smart meter already, what they can do in switching you over.